fall. It's all right, thanks, Kyle. The conference will be this fall, and we've just closed our call for speakers, but we're putting together a really great program, and we'd love to have as many people from our community attend that as possible, so check that out. Working at Lean Techniques, I am a product and delivery consultant. Most of my career, I've been working on the delivery side of projects, so helping teams build software and build it with speed and quality in mind. The last about 4 years or so, I've been really focused in the product space, so I've sort of shifted to learn more about the product management side. And today I'm going to talk about different ways of navigating uncertainty, because there's a lot of uncertainty in the work that we all do in building software products. So we're going to dive in and talk about that today. Okay, so on the screen, do any of these resonate with folks in the audience? I see some heads shaking. What caught your eye?
Each of those never used that
Okay, building features that were never used. What else? I saw another head shaking over here. Okay.
Plan fall apart right after the meeting.
Yeah, you spend time in a meeting planning, and then as soon as you leave the meeting, like everything changes about the plan, right? Anybody else? Okay, so my next question is, why do you think we do these things?
It's fun.
It's fun. It's fun. We're having fun doing it.
Gluttony, pure gluttony.
What else?
Want to be sure, want to know things.
We want to feel sure about something. Maybe we're feeling obligated to do so. Maybe we're not really sure what we're getting in for, so we go along with kind of the traditional norms. And all of these things are common in organizations, and they're justifiable and really honorable intentions. So I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about humans are craving certainty is really what I think is at the core of it. So we are looking for comfort, right? Like what Emily suggested there. We like patterns and habits, and we're very taxed when we have to think and make decisions all the time. When we're navigating an uncertain space, it's very taxing on our human knowledge base. So an example that I like to talk about is like just a familiar one with like driving. Assume like most of you maybe drove to work if you work in an office, or you drive to get groceries or to the gym or another place. You probably follow a common route. Yeah. And you know which lane to be in, where to turn. Sometimes you do it and you don't even remember how you got where you're going, right? It's a certain comfort in that. Now imagine, you might have to bear with me here, but imagine you're dropped into a place where you don't know. You don't have the directions. Maybe you don't even have GPS guiding you. Like maybe your phone died on you, right? And you're dropped into an unfamiliar setting and you need to find your way somewhere. You're worried a lot, right? Like, which lane do I need to be in? Do I need to merge now? Is this lane going to end? Is this going to turn into exit only? Like, what's going to happen if I miss my turn? Where will I park? Am I going to get there on time? And you start like going through all these situations, and you're trying to navigate your way through, and that's really taxing. Like, can you compare and contrast that to the example of driving somewhere on a familiar route and then driving on an uncertain route? Like the feelings you go through quite different. And this is the same thing that happens with our work. So why does this matter and why am I talking about this? Uncertainty is going to be a constant companion that we face in software development. And so what I want to share is a couple threads of how I've experienced it and techniques and models that you can apply to help like your teams and yourself navigate through that uncertainty. So we're going to cover 4 main topic areas tonight. We're going to learn about categorizing our problems, making space for learning in our plans, using evidence to help us reduce the uncertainty, and we're going to work on keeping our options open and adapting. So we'll go through those 4 tonight, and after each section, I'll pause for questions if there's anything in the chat or in the room if we want to talk about it. So onward to categorizing problems. Okay, so has anyone heard of the Cynefin framework? So a couple people have, so you can help if we have questions from the group. But the first thing I learned about Cynefin is how to pronounce it, because it doesn't look like it's spelled. If you're trying to pronounce that phonetically, it just doesn't quite work. So, okay, so with Cynefin, so this was a framework that Dave Snowden came up with, and what this is going to be used for, in the context that I like to apply it, is it's going to help us categorize problems that we're facing. And there's 4 main domains here. We'll go around this around the grid here and talk about each one of them really quick. So the clear domain is where there's an obvious answer to your problem. So you can assess your situation, make a decision, and arrive at the correct answer. So an example that I like to use is, we keep talking about driving for just a second. So we can go through a scenario like, we live in the United States. We drive on the right-hand side of the road. Therefore, I drive on the right-hand side of the road. I've made the correct choice. As opposed to, let's say we're in Australia. So my sister visited there, and of course they drive on the left side of the road. So you assess the situation you're in. I'm in Australia, they drive on the left-hand side of the road. I drive on the left-hand side of the road. Like, the answer to you is clear. So I know driving on the left-hand side like sounds easy to do, but if you practice it, it's probably hard to do. But anyway, so the clear one is where there's a best practice involved and you can assess your situation. The complicated space is where you're going to be able to use your knowledge and expertise and analyze the situation and come up with the right answer based off your analysis and your expertise. So in this case, you're going to rely on your experience and your knowledge. So here, this is a good space for problems that are deterministic in nature. So example would be, we're going to, people in this room, and if you're online, like we'll pretend you're here with us, we will disassemble all the tables and chairs and maybe the foosball table that's over there, and we're going to scatter the parts and the pieces all around this room. And as a team, we could make a plan to organize ourselves around the task needed to reassemble everything. And we, with some really good confidence, we could make a plan that we could execute on, and I believe that we would all be able to do that work. So this is going to require some coordination, some tasks, some knowledge, some expertise on different skills. But we could plan that out. Okay, the complex domain here, this is where things get a little more fuzzy. And this is where you're going to be dealing with a little bit more problems that we don't know the answers to yet. This is going to be framed oftentimes, like I see on teams where this is framed as more like an outcome or an impact statement. Like, we would like to increase adoption of this product or this feature. We don't know exactly how we're going to do that. And we could put together a plan and we still might not reach our adoption goals of that feature or that product, right? Because we're going to have to respond to how our users are using our product, how the market responds. There's a lot of variables in this space. And so this is a space where you have to like test, respond, and you have to sort of find your way to the solution. And this isn't deterministic. And so the types of planning that you do on problems in this space to get through that uncertainty are different than the ones that I mentioned prior with the clear and the complicated. And then over here, chaotic. This one is where we're just going to act in an emergency state. So this one's going to be like, if there isn't right now, but if there was like a tornado warning, or if there was a fire in the building, we would act first. We would get everyone to safety first. We wouldn't sit here and make a plan about how we're all going to coordinate and who's going to do which task and all that. We would be spurred into motion quickly. So in software and products, like sometimes this is like when you're in sort of a like an outage situation, maybe you need to restore service, like you are getting together and you're taking actions to restore service quickly. And then you usually generally will do a postmortem or a retro, and you will then like reflect on that. But the primary thing here is that we're acting first to achieve those results. So what I like to do with this model is know that the things that are deterministic, you can use more traditional planning methods for. And the things that are non-deterministic is where you're going to need to do some iteration, some discovery, some learning loops. So practical tip on this, and I got some handouts for y'all you can take with you if you like to, but so the takeaway from this really, like, we can't assume every problem is the same. So if you spend a few minutes, figure out which problem space you're in, find the right planning technique to help you with that. So there's a few just examples on there, like you need to migrate to the cloud on a database. We can analyze that. We can follow a best practice. We can execute that task that way. If we need to do the customer retention, we can do some more experimentation. So questions about this section on categorizing problems? Anything online? Okay. All right. Well, we'll just move on. If you have something, we'll just keep going. Okay. So second one, plan to learn. So this one, I'm going to share a model that I use that helps us with making sure that we're leaving space for learning in our plans. So has anyone seen this model before? The Rumsfeld model? Yeah. So that's Donald Rumsfeld, and he had a quote about there are unknown unknowns, right? So what I like to use this for is, so in our work, there's things that we know how to do. There's things that we know that we need to do. So those knowns are more in this certain space. And then there's things that we don't know, right? And we might know that we don't know them. And if we know that we don't know them, that's where we're going to need to do the learning in our process. So an example that I like to use here to tell a story is a team I was working with was re-platforming some software, right? So they were rewriting it essentially. Has anybody in here ever done a rewrite? I mean, I think every hand should go up because everywhere I go, we're rewriting something. But we were working on rewriting a platform. And so we were moving all of the applications from this old platform into a new platform. And we were sitting in one of these conference rooms and we were doing like a planning session and we were sort of taping the wall with the tasks we were going to need to do. And we were looking through the different applications. And there were several applications that we knew how to port over because they were a certain, like, I don't know, archetype, right? They were a certain type of project and we knew how to move those to the new platform. So those are things we knew. And we were just classifying those as like whatever effort, like low effort, high value, right? So we knew how to plan things we knew about them. We knew how to port them. We maybe knew usage about how often they were being hit in the current platform. And so we were making a plan. And then we got to some of these applications that we really didn't know how to port over or what approach we were going to take. And so instead of just continuing to plan through that and like making a guess like that's going to be high effort, and we decided to plan for learning. And how that actually played itself out was one of the software engineers in the room was like, hey Jodi, like we just don't know. Like we don't know if the authentication is going to carry through, and we don't know if the user claims are going to come through in the new portal. And we could make this plan, but we don't know. So they're like, can we just step out of the room? Like, can we just go try this? So we're like, yeah, like let's go do that. So they left the planning session and spent like an hour, figured out how to do that work, came back in. We know how to do that now. We learned how to do that. So we sort of like built in learning into our planning. So that was kind of a fun story. We didn't know we were doing this until we were in the middle of it. And then a funny story was like a project manager, sort of new to the role. It's like, when can we get a list of our unknown unknowns? And we're just like, oh yeah, we're not gonna get, we won't get that because we don't know what we don't know yet. So how do we handle that? So we had to leave some buffer in our plan, right, for that, because you're going to encounter something that you don't know yet. So so that's kind of how we work through this. This is a model you can use to help you work through uncertainty if you don't know. Figure out what you know, figure out what you don't know, and build a plan for learning. My tip for that one. So my tip for this one is to work to uncover the unknowns and look at what you know, look at what you don't know. What will you learn? What's your time box for learning? Take action, I guess, to solve that. Otherwise, you'll just that'll help you prevent wasted time, planning, effort, miscommunications. Any thoughts, questions, comments?
Sprint or a Kanban, make a ticket to say figure out stuff.
How do you schedule that in your process, in your team process? So so I think in this case, for example, we knew we needed to figure out how was that authentication claim going to come through the new portal. So we did it right there, but you could schedule time in your board or your planning session for that. If you're planning, so that would be kind of at a lower level planning on the team level. If you're planning for a quarter or you're planning a roadmap, I would just bucket in time for that, so, yeah. Yeah, I think we generally try to avoid the word spikes around here. Unless we can really define like a deliverable, right? Like, we want to learn this thing in this amount of time, and this will be the outcome of it.
I have two questions, but now I'm more, like, the second one came with what you just said.
Okay.
Why do you not like using the word spike?
Why do we like spikes? Well, well, I wish Scott was here today. He left, but I think what can sometimes happen with spikes is that they just become like a placeholder, like a placeholder for work. So like, we're just gonna do the spike to do the analysis, and then we're gonna write a ticket to do the work, and then we're gonna write a ticket to do the testing. And so it's sort of like waterfalls it a little bit, instead of just saying like, we're gonna learn what we need to do by doing the work as we do the work, instead of just doing a spike on it.
Okay.
I don't know if that was clear enough. Anybody else could add thoughts too.
No, that makes sense to me. So then, you have your notes, like, we know how to do this.
Mhm.
In this plan, we know that we don't know how to do these things, right? So you can
Yep.
kind of plan for the knowns, you can plan for the known unknowns. And then you're saying on the other one, you just need to kind of buffer some time because
On your
something's gonna happen.
on your unknown unknowns, you're gonna have to buffer time because you don't know what's gonna happen, right? So you're gonna ship this product out to production, and you don't know how your users are gonna use it. You don't know what the load is. You don't know, like, one thing we've learned is users will use our software in ways that we could never imagine them to do, right? And they'll oftentimes come up with like the most interesting workarounds to things like that you've never thought of. And we'll get to a future slide and tip in here will be about how we need to observe our users and their behaviors and learn through that. But yeah, there's going to be stuff you don't know. And so that would be like an iteration that could be like, after we ship this, if we don't get the outcomes we want, we're going to need to try something else. And we're going to have to work through that. We won't know that up front. We can't plan that up front. And if we try, we're likely to be wrong. And the plan that you just made in that meeting that you said goes out the window the minute the meeting's over, that's sort of what's going to happen if you try, if you find yourself in that spot.
Have you found any, like, if you're project planning and you have, again, like, knowns, unknowns, unknown unknowns, have you found like a percentage that you can dictate towards the unknown unknowns, like in your experience as a project lead? You seem like, oh, I buffer 20% because I know typically we're not going to know 20% of work.
Yeah. So for you, those of you online, if you can't hear the question, it was, is there a typical percentage of time that you would allocate for unknown unknowns? And I'm going to disappoint you, Carter, because I don't think that I have a number in my head. I don't know from others' experiences what that might be. It's an unknown.
I got percentage.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. Yeah, I don't know. There probably is. We could do a little research and we could see what like the world has found in that space. But I would definitely leave room to iterate. And sometimes, I mean, sometimes what I might think about is like, how far off were we from achieving the outcome? So let's just say we were trying to achieve like a certain rate of adoption of a new feature. Say we wanted to get like 50% more users using this feature, and you shipped it and you saw 10%. So now you might say, wow, team, we only got 10% of adoption out of that. Like, what might we try to get the next 10% or 20 or 30? And we have to try the next thing there. Or we could say, we only got 10%. We're not chasing that anymore. Like we want to choose something else to go after there. Yeah. It's easier if I just give you a number, but I don't have one. So, okay. Are there any questions online or anything? You could let me know. Okay. All right. So now that we've sort of learned about categorizing our problems, using the right planning technique for the domain, we're like knowing what we know and we don't know, and we're planning to learn. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about using evidence to help, with increasing your certainty. And this comes into play quite often when you're trying to figure out what to build. So this is a really big thing, a really big responsibility for your product managers. And so do you all work with product managers in here? Yeah, okay. So do you ever wonder like what they do all day? Sometimes. They have a really hard job. They have a really hard job. And one of the main things that they should be focusing on, these 4 big risks, this comes from Marty Kagan. He's really well known in the product management space. And he's coined these 4 big risks. And I think these are all about uncertainty in my mind. So there's the value risk. So if we built something, would our customers, would our users find it valuable? They need to find it valuable to use it, right? So we have to mitigate this value risk. Usable. So if you have a UX team, they can really help you out here. But after you build something, you need to make sure that your users can figure out how to do their job, right? Like, or the task that they are setting out to accomplish. So is it usable? That's an uncertainty that they're working through. Feasibility is where, if you're an engineer, software engineer, and you're in this room, feasibility, this is squarely in your lane. So we're going to need to figure out, like, is it feasible to build this idea that we have? And there's some uncertainty with that. Like, do we know how? Have we ever done this before? Do we have the right skills, people, talent, time, budget? Can we pull it off? So feasibility is a really big one there for software engineers. And then viability, which is like, does this work for our business model? So maybe we have a great idea, it's feasible and users would find it valuable, but we don't have a business model that supports it. We don't have the distribution channel. We don't have the customers. We don't have the partnerships. We don't have on and on, right? So this is where, like, so your product managers are spending time on understanding these risks and figuring out which ones that, quite frankly, they want to solve, right? They get good at making some decisions around like feasibility by working with their teams, but value risk seems to be one of the biggest ones. Okay, so these 4 risks by Marty Kagan. So then if you're a product manager, you are probably getting ideas tossed at you left and right? You got ideas coming at you. Like the VP of your company has ideas, your manager has ideas, your software engineering team has ideas, your customers have ideas, the stakeholder in marketing has ideas, like your biggest account at your company has ideas. Like there's all these ideas and everyone has ideas and everyone thinks their ideas the right thing to build next, and they got to make sense out of all of that. So product managers are going to be making decisions, and how do they make the best decisions possible for the company and the users and the product at hand? And there's a lot of uncertainty in all of these ideas. So how do they decide what the team's going to work on? One thing that I like to do is I like to use this matrix for helping organize ideas. And the way this works is you take the ideas and you first look at it from the perceived value. So value to your organization and value to your customer. And you go from high to low. Like you just put it on a sticky, put it in Miro, put it on a wall, whatever it is. Put it up there between high and low. Now, we've all been there, and every idea is high because everybody thinks their idea is going to have high value. But that's okay. We just sort of start grouping around the first one. And then the next thing we want to do is we want to ask questions about how much evidence do we have to support that idea? Like, how much evidence do we have that that idea at hand will help us achieve the outcome and impact that we want? So how clear is the path to it? And I'll tell a couple stories. I think I have plenty of time. I'll tell a couple of stories here, and then we'll go on from there. But one experience that I had was like one of those VPs, you know, VP, let's say marketing, had an idea, and they knew of this feature that a product, let's say it was a product, it's a product that a competitor had, and they had heard that competitors are going to be shutting down that product. So they thought, wow, this is a really great opportunity for us. We're going to build that. And then all that market share, all those people that were using their product, they'll come over here and they'll use our product. Like, okay, maybe. So that was going to be a really expensive project too, right? Like this is going to keep a team or two going for, I don't know, let's say 6 months, something like that. Not unreasonable, right? So normally what would happen is was like, well, let's just get to work. Let's get busy. Let's get started. Let's start figuring this out. And in this case, we were able to like do a bit of discovery because we weren't really sure how much evidence we had that that outcome would actually happen. So what this meant was talking to some of the distribution channels, right? Going out and doing a few interviews, talking with the users about that product. And what we ended up learning was that they didn't really want that product anymore, right? And if the team was going to be working on something, they have a whole other list of stuff that would come ahead of it, right? So so in that case, the evidence was that we shouldn't build that, right? So that's really cool. Like, so that kind of goes like, evidence is like high, that it would be low value, okay? And it's all good to like have this matrix and go like, okay, so high evidence, low value, like communicate why and it's not now. But guess what? Someone has to walk in to that VP's office and have a really, really tough conversation, right? But you've got the evidence and the stories and the data and the anecdotes and the everything like lined up to sort of help like with the conversation. And then this turned out to be a really good success story because we didn't move forward with that. So we ended up saving a lot of money, and we avoided creating that feature that nobody used, right? Like some of you at the beginning said you've done that before. Like we prevented that from happening here. So that's a story that I guess I like to share here. Sometimes if you have enough evidence, like you don't have to do a lot of discovery. If you have a lot of evidence, we can move that over to like the team and get it in their queue for delivery. It doesn't have to be a long, laborious process here, but using this will help you clear the path a bit. So sometimes people ask me, well, like, how do I know where to put it on the evidence scale? Like, what does good evidence look like? And one of the tools I like to use, this is from a gentleman named Itmar, and he has a book called Evidence Guided, and that's where this came from. So the gist of this tool is to help you on that evidence, like what is high and what is low evidence. And the way you read this is you start at like 12 o'clock and then you go clockwise around the wheel here. And what you'll notice is things from like 12 o'clock down to 6 o'clock, those types of evidence are like, I really believe this feature. I personally believe this feature is the next thing for us. Or can we see it on the, I don't know how to move that, but it could be like, it aligns with our corporate objectives. Okay? It could very well align with your corporate objectives and you still might not get the results you want. We have a plan. We know we can deliver it. Okay, just because we can deliver it, we still don't know we're going to reach the objectives. Maybe we have anecdotal evidence. So the things that are on that first side of the wheel are sort of like internal to your company. So they're like people that work with you inside your organization. And then when you like start to take the turn on this wheel, you're like getting outside of your company. Like, so you're talking to users. There's market data, you've done some testing, maybe you've done a small launch and you're collecting information. So this is where you're like actually on the customer side. So you're getting the data that's telling you users will find this valuable. They will use it. They're showing us by their behavior or these external factors. So this is going to help you make sure like your confidence that you're going to make an impact is much higher when you're on this side for evidence. So you could think about the last project or feature you worked on, and you could think about, where did we start from? Like take the last story you worked on or feature your team worked on, and maybe think about like, where was that on this wheel? And where's the outcomes that we're getting? Are we on a path for success, or might we need to get outside of our organization? And then when we're in this discovery phase, like that top left where your product managers are going to like start doing a lot of discovery work, things that they could be using. These are just a few samples. This is not everything, but this is from Nielsen Norman Group, which is a big UX user research firm. And they have a really nice matrix that has a whole lot more just different techniques for each of these quadrants, but I just picked out a few of them here. So depending on if you want to get, qualitative or quantitative data, and if you want to understand how your users feel about your system or how they behave and interact with your system, there's different techniques you can use here. A couple stories, I'll tell a couple stories because I like to tell stories. So one of the teams I was working with, they had kept hearing that they needed to improve performance on this application. And this improved performance just kept getting pushed down, right? Like on the priority list. So like, yeah, we could improve performance, but we got this next thing to add, or we have this other bug to fix, and performance just never was making it to execution. So we were on a site visit. We were like out doing this go to Gemba. We were watching a user like use the system, and she fires it up. And the first thing you do when you get in the system is you have to search for a person like in your organization. So she types in the name, hits the search key, and then she gets up and she walks over. She gets her coffee. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Like she's like, well, yes, like the search takes a long time to return results. Like if I'm lucky, when I get back over here, it'll have like the results. And if I'm not lucky, time's out and I have to like do it again. And so like, how easy was it for us just to deprioritize like performance, right? Like it's just a performance ticket. Like, yeah, we can always improve performance. Like, but this was a really meaningful way to connect like what a performance improvement could do for like what kind of impact could that make to the person using your software. So that was like that's a go to the Gemba one. There's another one about like watching user interviews. So another story is another team had built out some features, and this is part of like that rewrite, situation you're in. How many times have you been in that? And it's kind of like, well, feature parity, right? You probably hear those words a lot. Like, we need feature parity of the old system. And this was sort of someone new in product management, like, yeah, we need feature parity. So the team built out like this feature. So there's two ways to kick off this first process. Like you could, I don't know, like you can start the process by something that's in your inventory, like on your shelves stacked, you can use that, or you can search and look it up by like an identifier, like a SKU. So the team built both ways because feature parity. And then when we watched a usability test amongst like several usability tests, like let's say 5 different users that we did a usability test on, and no one ever started by finding the thing that was on their inventory. They always keyed it in, like because they were working off of whatever workflow they were working off of. And so this like product manager is like, wow, like that never came up. And I know I have some bugs in there, and I know I have some of that stuff prioritized to fix, but I didn't see anybody using it. He's like, man, I wish we wouldn't have built that. Like, so like that was kind of a lesson about like, oh, your users aren't like, you built the feature no one used, but he's like, wow, I really wish we wouldn't have built that. Like, so it's kind of like a tough lesson to learn, but it's just like some of these techniques can really help you with like we were certain we needed it, but we really didn't need it. So that was kind of a story to tell there. So the moral of this part of the story is like, even just spending an hour gathering that evidence from your user, like if you could even spare an hour, customer interviews, watch your user, maybe even just pull data. If you do nothing else but pull some data on how they're using your system, it can increase the confidence that you'll build the right thing. Okay. Thoughts, questions on that? We got one more to go.
Well, I too like stories, Jody.
Yes, Carter, great.
And somebody in this room, I still talk about mine where a product owner / me said, I want to go with grid view versus list view. And the person said, we have Google Analytics, we can like that. The product owner was like, no, I know my user base. Grid view is what we want. The person said, I'm going to look at this anyways on Google Analytics, and found that list view got like 93% of the usage, and had to talk to the SME and say like, we're not doing what you're asking for because it's not popular. So that was kind of the hard like VP conversation.
Yeah.
And it changed the app for the better.
So I don't know, I should have gave you the mic so people on the
I think I talked loud.
phone could hear you. But Carter had a similar story where the analytics proved an alternate path from what the subject matter expert knew was happening, right?
Yeah.
But when we dig in, yeah. Yep. I'm sure we all have stories, and that's what makes this stuff that we can like relate with each other, right? So,
Jodi.
oh, well, I have my power cord right here. Thank you, John. Is there a plug-in here?
Right behind you.
Thank you. Okay, well, we're almost done, and I'm not doing a good job. Okay, so, all right, we've categorized the problem space. We're using the right planning technique. We're planning to learn, we're gathering evidence. All these things are leading us to navigating this uncertain terrain such that we're going to make decisions that we're building the right thing and we're going to make the impact and the outcomes that we want for our business and our users. And then the last thing I want to talk about is keeping your options open. And so for this, I like to use story mapping, and this comes from Jeff Patton, and it's a way of organizing the work that you believe you need to do from a user's perspective and telling a story of the objectives and outcomes that they want. So finding a small path of value through your system so that you're not building everything at once. You're not building like everything for everyone. You are going to narrowly focus on finding value for a user to achieve an objective, like, or a persona to achieve an objective. And when you do this, you're going to slice your work and you're going to find release candidate options for you. So it might be when we've completed this amount of work and created this stream of value for our users, that's something we can release to the market. And then we can move on to the next piece. Or we might not have to move on to the next piece. And that's where one of the things that I really like is that this will give you options. So you don't have to do the whole thing in entirety. You have an option and a checkpoint that you can ask yourself, should we continue on? Have we met our objectives to our satisfactions? Or is there more value creation that we can give to our customers, more impact that we can have to our organization? I've found that this is really helpful in communicating with like managers, leadership. They can wrap their heads around a plan like this. And when you talk about it with them, you are confident because you can show them, we've thought more than just this first piece of value. We're thinking about this and this and this. And it sort of looks like this, but we're going to give ourselves some options here. And when we get to this point, we're going to ask ourselves, what do we want to continue to invest in or not invest in? So it's a really nice communication piece. It gives you options. If you run into something that you're not, you weren't planning on, and it's been a really nice way to like tell the story I've found it to be really effective here. And it keeps your teams focused on getting through like that first piece of value creation. So for this one, so instead of like a really big, long single plan, it's going to give you options. It's going to give you places to check in. It's going to have a place where you can make pivots and adjust. So you can't plan out every step, but you can plan to uncover and identify when you're going to pivot and what you're going to do next. Okay, questions on that one?
Curious, the sort of art, discovering how far out you should plan, you should have optionality open, like the next couple of steps, or is that just how we?
Yeah, I think there's art and science to it, really. I tend to favor more like at a team level, I tend to favor more just-in-time planning because I've found like a lot of waste if you try to plan too far out, right? So if you have someone that's like kind of like, well, we need to have a backlog for like the next 12, 14 weeks, like chances are, like by the time you get to that, a lot of things have changed on you. And chances are, like if you talk about it in sort of your ceremonies, you'll have forgotten it by the time it comes around, and you're gonna have to talk about it again. And you might even have a new team member. Like there's a lot of things that can come up. So I tend to favor just-in-time planning for team level things. For like a layer up, like road mapping and planning. Really tough to do, but now next laters are really good. I do find there's still some organizations have challenges with them, right? But they would still like to see a time base, like a month or calendar, quarter view. So I guess if you put that together, the biggest thing I can advise is like, it's gonna change. We can put this out here as our intent, and we know like that we're gonna have to be fluid with it. Mhm. Okay. Yeah.
You mentioned, and it triggered a thought in my head, so let's say you had two features you were thinking about doing, prioritizing, would you factor in like one that has less unknowns? Because you might be able to learn, I thought there was like, maybe you learned something from that one that could apply to that, or would you kind of, would that adjust your priority assignment?
If you have more unknowns, would you prioritize that? Is that the question?
Kind of the opposite.
The
You have
opposite, less unknowns, yes.
Like the team's like, oh, maybe we'll learn something from this to
Mhm.
apply to this other one.
Yeah.
Would you then adjust your like,
Yeah.
your priority based on that? Or
Yeah, as I'm just thinking about your question, which is a really, really interesting situation, I think it's probably, there's gonna be some context that you'll need to apply. But in general, I would say if you have more evidence and certainty that something is going to help you reach your impact and create value, that's one of those, like your evidence is high, you can go like, or it's higher, right? Maybe you're ready to do some delivery on that to learn. The other one seemed like there might be more uncertainty in it. So we're gonna need to do a little more discovery. So what might we do for like a discovery piece there? And you can time box that too. You can always do like, we'll discover something for a week. We're gonna see what we learn in a week. And then that information might inform what we do next. So, yeah. Good. Okay, good questions. This is fun. Okay, so I'm at the end of my presentation here. So this is just a sort of a summary slide of all the different models. We got the Knevin model for categorizing our problems, Rumsfeld for planning to learn, evidence gathering to increase our confidence that we're going to be building the right thing, and then keeping our options open as we get into delivery. And then this handy dandy little tip sheet is on your handouts, and hopefully there's something in here that you guys can take away and apply to your work as you go forth from here. If you want to connect up with me, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm at Lean Techniques, and I got the slides available. Oh, Tim, thank you. Thank you. Tim had a question, I think.
I'm curious how other people prioritize.
That's an open question for the room. Yeah, we can, yes. How do other people prioritize? And I can walk around with the mic if y'all want to come on. Like, oh, Dusty, everything's a priority.
Everything's a priority.
How does that work out?
Well, there's a great picture online where, yeah, people use different verbiage to categorize their priority, and it's always everything's at the top.
Yeah. Whenever.
I feel like that's a trick, right? Because you can only have one priority and multiple companies have multiple priorities. It's like, but I can only do one, right? So which one of these multiple do we want to bubble up to the top?
Lately, I've been asking this question, like, what would you like first? Right? So then it doesn't, like, it's not like saying like, what do you want to give up, or like, well, which one would you like first? And if they can answer that, that's usually helpful. Okay, other ways teams prioritize or proud of people?
So nobody prioritized? How do you know what to work on at the top of your list?
I can say what the ideal would be.
What is your-
Look, we're gonna get you mic'd up in case
Okay.
someone online wants to listen. Go, Nick.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying it always actually goes this way, but I would say ideally you have a really tight feedback loop with client or customer. So they're kind of giving you those marching orders to where you don't have to think about it too much. So either with some of those tools you mentioned, the user interviews and so on, or analytics or whatever, they're kind of setting the pace with features they actually want, just that with that really tight feedback. So I'm not saying it always happens that way, but that would be ideal. You're just getting your orders from customer.
Yeah, I love that one. Like some of my teammates would say like, we're gonna ship this thing. And the first thing they ask for, like, where's this? And you're like, aha, that's what we need to build next. Like they're validating for you what you should build next. Because when they ask for it, it's probably because they want to use it. All right, John, that's good. I should put my Garmin on, get these steps counted.
So my team is working on a rewrite project, because we all do. And we do talk about feature parity a little bit, but we are also looking at how to make those features actually work better for the users. And we do a lot of discovery to understand what problems are the users having to really help us decide what features to build first. And I work in a lot of what you've talked about today too. So that's why I wasn't bringing anything else up.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Oh, Neil. Okay, look at this. I will get my steps in. Oh yeah, someone go over there quick.
I'd say tight loop with your product manager or whatever, because they have a lot of things on their plate. And then at least from a dev perspective, having like I get a lot of questions like, hey, what do you think about this? Like, how long would this take? Or like, what's feasibility of this? Like, because you can kind of kill those plans pretty quick if they're really difficult or whatever, and it really helps. And then I'd also say I've had a lot of success on like small POCs of just like, does this do what we think? Even like if we could get it in front of the user, great. But even if we don't, is this like action? Like when it's an action, is it doing what we thought it would do instead of like, make it come to life? Whether that's like through like Figma or something, or actually writing like a small tiny app real quick.
Yeah, I love that one too, right? Like, they'll tell you what they want, but then as soon as you put it in front of them, like, they'll be like, that's not what I wanted at all.
You like the discovery side.
It would be in
Yeah.
you would be engaging your engineering team in the discovery efforts in that case. Mhm. Cool. Thanks for the question. That was really fun. Okay. I think, are we gonna wrap up? Oh, we can, yes, I think we can get the raffle out.
Everybody online is already entered for a raffle. I'll spin it. You want in? Anybody? Or is it all online? Nobody wants a license? Okay. Let me share. I'm gonna try to share my screen so it'll be more fun for everybody online. This one. There we go. Did it show up there? No, that's okay. All right, I got everybody's name that is still in the chat on here, and I'm gonna click to spin. We'll see who wins.
1 in 3 chance.
It's no Rick. Mr. Rick, do you want a license? If you do, you can maybe DM me your email if you shoot it to me. He said, sure. All right. You got it, Rick. Cool. If there's nothing else, maybe one more round of applause for Jodi. Yeah. Woo. Am I on the video? Get over here. All right. One last extra nice shout out for LT. Thank you for hosting. You guys have a great space. Woo! And then next month we are doing lightning talks. Currently we have 3 people lined up to do a lightning talk. That is gonna be June 19th, I believe is the date. If you would be interested, we would love to have you. We need like one more slot. I would love to fill it with somebody. Don't make me twist your arm. So I don't know. That's probably it. And we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for showing up. Thanks, guys.